Hello, everyone, and we would like to welcome all of you back. Hope you had a good 5 minute loo or snack break. Well, I had my break myself. I'm having a bowl of cereals right now. And if you still don't know me, well, I'm back for this next session. I'm Rico Hizon from CNN Philippines, your host and moderator for this session on clean air, healthy cities, investing in green and sustainable recovery. Well, we want to recognize our partners for this session. They are Vital Strategies, IGES, and Clean Air Asia's integrated program for better air quality, who help us make this session materialize, and they all made it happen. And before we kick off this session, we would like to share with you some background information because we all live in a highly urbanized society, just like maybe many of you were joining us right now, the hundreds of delegates from various cities and countries across the Asia Pacific region. And the majority of people in APAC live in urban areas, just like myself. I live in an urban area here in Manila. It's called Makati City. And this is equivalent in total, if we put them and sum them up all together, more than 2.3 billion people. That is a lot of people in urbanized areas. A rising demand for resources, energy, and motorized transport contribute to serious urban air pollution and to the ongoing climate crisis. But the good news is that cities have not sat back idly in the face of these challenges, and they have taken bold steps to beat air pollution for healthy air and a healthy planet. Well, cities are breeding grounds for innovation. Even before COVID-19, many of them have adopted urban farming and electric mobility or e-mobility, improved services in public transport and solid waste management. And we're exploring zero-emission buildings and nature-based solutions. So these solutions may have also gained additional momentum as COVID-19 lockdowns have brought a temporary reduction in some pollution levels. There is potential to use investments in COVID-19 recovery packages to accelerate sustainable and clean air solutions. It is in cities where the fight for a green recovery will be won or could be lost. But are we on track for a green recovery? This is what we will explore today with our esteemed guests and panelists. But first, let us watch a video on clean air for cities and how we can invest in recovery.
Hi, I'm Maya. Because of the pandemic lockdowns, I started riding my bike. In my journeys, it made me wonder, why do governments need to invest in clean air and a green recovery? Cities are at the forefront of action. Air pollution is a public health issue, requiring urgent action. Cities, as the hub of innovation, lead efforts to invest in emissions reduction from key sources of pollution. We need to think of everyone. Cities should be made for people, not just for cars. From the lessons learned during the COVID-19 pandemic lies opportunity. Cities can build back better by advancing sustainability as part of their recovery plans. This would require strengthening capacity and including green recovery planning processes that are inclusive, resilient, and sustainable for all. We need to work together. By its nature, air pollutants transcend borders, countries, and regions. Air pollution is a shared responsibility. Emissions can come from multiple sources. Therefore, cities need regional coordination and national support to ensure long-term improvement. This is an opportunity to future-proof economies by building more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable cities. Together, we can build towards the future that we want, a future that leaves no one behind.
And that was indeed a very informative video presentation, which sets the scene for this next session. Today, we have two experts who will share with us new evidence for improving air quality in cities. Our first expert is an esteemed member of the Asia-Pacific Clean Air Partnership Science Panel. But before I formally introduce him to all of you, we would highly encourage our delegates who are watching us right now in this session to send in your questions in the chat function, as you can see right now on your screens. Remember the chat function if you have a question for our two experts today. And we have a portion in the session for speakers to respond to your questions from the participants. So ladies and gentlemen, let us all please welcome now an esteemed member of the Asia-Pacific Clean Air Partnership Science Panel. Let us all please welcome Dr. Marcus Aman. Hello, Marcus. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Rico, for this kind introduction. It is a great pleasure to contribute to this very important meeting with three important scientific insights. First, there is overwhelming scientific evidence that fine particulate matter, scientists call it PM2.5, is by far the most harmful air pollutant for human health. The second aspect is that PM2.5 consists of very small particles. They are smaller than 2.5 micrometers. And these particles, because they are so small, remain in the atmosphere for typically a week. During this time, they are transported with the air mass by the wind over distances of typically 1,000 kilometers and more, and they affect air quality in this large downwind area. This range extends much wider than any city in the world. And this also means that the sources of PM in ambient air in the cities originate from this upwind range. Next month, the World Bank will release a flagship study on air quality management in South Asia. And this study explores economic response strategies to reduce the health and economic burden of air pollution in the region, and particularly in the cities of this region. Inter alia, this study quantifies for all large cities in South Asia the share of PM2.5 that originates within the same city and how much is imported from outside. So how much receive cities pollution from outside. And this graph shows you the situations for a number of cities in the Indo-Gangetic Plain as an example. And what is important here is this dark blue area indicates the share which comes from within the city, and the rest of the pollution is transported from outside. And this graph very clearly indicates that cities contribute only a very small share of pollution to their own concentrations and receive the majority of pollution from outside. And this also means that the pollution produced in the city is transported out of the region downwind and affects the air quality in the downwind area. The same study is the same analysis is currently also undertaken for East Asia by EASA, and these findings, the current findings for East Asia are very similar to these findings for South Asia for many cities, and the results will be available for the end of the year. So this is a situation which not only is typical for South Asia, but also for East Asia as well. And the third finding is that the importance of distant sources is enhanced by this fact that in Asia, a large share of PM2.5, and this is about 40 to 60%, consists of secondary particles. So in addition to these directly emitted particles, soil dust, black carbon, and other substances, these secondary particles are formed through chemical reactions from sulfur dioxide emissions, NOx emissions, VOC emissions, and ammonia emissions, and then form particles. These reactions take some time, so that in the cities, the vast majority of secondary particles originate from distant sources, simply because of the time factor. And again, cities are the emissions in the cities, precursor emission of secondary particles, cause pollution in downwind areas. It is important now that because of the wide range of these precursor pollutants, these emissions originate from many different economic sectors, and many of them also are not important within cities. Notably, these sources include, and this is in addition to the conventional sources like large power plants, industry, and traffic, but for the secondary particles, important sources are the agricultural activities, which is a major source of ammonia, includes manure management, fertilizer application, and also the crop residue burning as a source of VOC and primary PM. They also include the solid fuel combustion in rural households in the countryside. They include municipal waste management and also small industries, which are also quite frequent in rural areas. The World Bank report also quantified the total contribution, that means this primary and the secondary PM combined, of the various economic sectors in South Asia. And this is what you see here. And the graph very clearly shows how important sources which are outside of the cities are for urban air quality. And this graph indicates the different sectors. So from the bottom, we have some soil dust outside from the city, blue area, power plants, large industries, then small industries, the yellow area, very important share, domestic solid fuel combustion. And then we have the transport sources, is the light blue areas, municipal waste burning, and agricultural residue burning, and so on. Again, we have very similar findings from the ongoing YASA study for East Asia, although the household sources might be a little bit less important in this region. But we also see that new measurements of the chemical species of PM2.5 in Bangkok and also for Hanoi, that they show surprisingly large concentrations of secondary organic aerosols, which originate from biomass burning, either in households or of agricultural residues. And also this is taking place outside of the city. And this is surprising because the available energy and economic statistics in the region do not completely support these high numbers. Now, these three findings are not new, and they are not rocket science. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, they have not yet received the attention of air quality management in many Asian cities, with a few notable exceptions. And I say unfortunately, because these undisputed scientific facts have very important implications for air quality management in Asia. First is due to the physical features of PM, most cities in Asia cannot achieve clean air on their own. It is necessary for the cities to coordinate action throughout the airsheds that extend far beyond the cities, maybe in a range up to 1,000 kilometers. And this often in other administrative regions and even in other countries. Unfortunately, the current governance structures in many Asian countries and cities are not yet designed for such regional coordination. But the good thing is that there are good examples of how effective response strategies across administrations. There are many examples in the Western world, and now they're also in Asia. China shows the way how this can be done. The second important implication is that clean air policies for cities in Asia must also address, in addition to the urban sources, but it is essential that they also address non-urban emission sources and include all precursor emissions, also in sectors which are not important within the cities themselves. The physical reasons are clear, simply the features of fine particles. The new World Bank study also adds now important economic arguments, showing that many of these measures are among the most cost-effective measures. And this graph shows you the impact, the potential impact of the most effective measures in India and in Bangladesh to improve the air quality, and how much these the various measures can improve. The blue bars indicate what is already taken, and the gray what more could be done. And what is really important here is the yellow parts of the bars here indicate what are the cost-effective, what the cost-effective measures would deliver there. And there, if you run through this diagram, and I don't go through details here, you very clearly see that the very important sources and the big contributions come from sources outside of city. And the most important one is to enable access to clean cooking and lighting in the countryside. This is usually not an urban problem, but a rural problem. But this has very important impact, not only in the city, in the rural areas, but also to urban air quality. Now, let me summarize my 4 key points. First, due to the physical features of PM, most cities in Asia cannot achieve clean air on their own. The action must be coordinated with airsheds that extend over several hundreds of kilometers beyond the cities. And what is really important, cities must take the lead in this. The second finding highlights that clean air policies in the cities of Asia must also include action in rural areas, especially the elimination of solid fuel combustion in households seems a very prominent measure. And third, the effective measures to improve air qualities also in the cities span across many economic sectors that have been affected by the COVID crisis. Investments into cleaner practices will not only improve air quality and human health, so the immediate impacts of clean air, but they will also enhance economic recovery and thereby contribute to development and growth objectives. And fourth, and I want to finish with this, for all of this to materialize, we need improved capacity to develop integrated air quality management planning in Asia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marcus, for that comprehensive presentation. As you mentioned, there are still many challenges and obstacles for improving air quality in cities. And I do hope that our delegates who are watching us right now will heed and have listened to your recommendations on how we can move forward. What would be the next steps in improving air quality in the many beautiful cities, but polluted cities in this region. And once again, we would like to highly encourage all of you who are joining us today, our delegates, to send in your questions in the chat function for Marcus and for our next expert guest. We have a portion in the session for speakers to respond to questions from the participants. So we're hoping that you can send in those questions quickly. And our next speaker is the Principal Environment Specialist from the Asian Development Bank to share with us lessons from ADB's technical assistance on air quality. Ladies and gentlemen, delegates, let us all please welcome Ms. Karma Yangzom. Thank you, Karma, for joining us.
Thank you, Rico. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much to UNEP, IGES, and the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share experience from ADB on this particular technical assistance project. So the name of the technical assistance project is Strengthening Knowledge and Actions for Air Quality Improvement in Asia. And so basically the TA has a total budget of $2.81 million, and the project implementation period is from October 2018 until December 2022. So basically, the scope of the TA includes the development of city-level clean air action plans in 7 cities in 5 countries. So as you can see on the screen, we have Faridpur city in Bangladesh, Urdanet in Mongolia, Peshawar and Sialkot in Pakistan, La Trinidad in the Philippines, Ho Chi Minh and Vinh in Vietnam. So these are the cities that we are working in under the TA. And basically the impact or the outcome that we want out of this TA is to have our developing member countries, or at least one of them, have a commitment to improve air quality management within at least one city or more. So basically to convert the city level clean air action plans into an actual plan to be implemented. And so to deliver this, we have 3 outputs under the TA. Output 1 and output 2 is basically carrying out a series of studies within each city to understand the air pollution problem, what are the sort of technology gaps, what are the policy gaps, and then finally output 3 is to develop the clean air action plan based on the findings from output 1 and output 2. So at the moment, we have some preliminary findings from the studies that have been carried out under output 1 and 2. So basically, the sources of pollution were divided into point sources, area sources, and mobile sources. In Faridpur city in Bangladesh, there are several sources of pollution. Such as brick kilns, municipal solid waste, motor vehicles, household cooking. So very similar to what Dr. Marcus had just mentioned in his presentation. However, for this particular city in Bangladesh, it is found that the brick kilns contribute more than half, or 58% of the total pollution in the city. In the 2 cities of Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh and Vinh, PM, so again, this is very much similar to what Dr. Marcus had mentioned, particulate matter, and in particular PM 2.5 is the main pollutant. And in both cities, transport is the main source, the transport sector, so basically vehicles is the main source of particulate matter. There are other sources of pollution as well, such as household cooking, textile industries, harbor emissions, restaurants, and food industries. In the Philippines, in La Trinidad, so it's mainly basically the transport sector, because as we know, there is a lot of traffic, and Rico, you are there in Makati, and I also live in Quezon City. So, you know, transport is, there's a lot of transport congestion and there are a lot of vehicles. So accordingly, this is what we found in La Trinidad. Mm-hmm. In Urdanet, this is a little bit different, because in Mongolia, as we all know, it's extremely cold. The weather is extremely cold, so a lot of the pollution has got to do with the heating system. There are various sources of pollution also in Urdanet, and because of the cold climate, there is a lot of household stoves that are used for cooking as well as heating by burning coal. And this is a major source of pollution. According to a multiple indicator cluster survey, which was conducted in 2013 by UNFPA and UNICEF, it was found that 55.5% of all households in Mongolia use solid fuel for cooking, of which 88.3% are from the rural areas and 36.6% are in the urban households. So as mentioned by Dr. Marcus, again, it's both rural and urban, both sectors, which play a role. In Pakistan, in Peshawar and Sialkot, again, the key emission source is transport, and there are a lot of industries, particularly brick kilns, tanneries, incineration of medical waste, diesel generators, and burning of solid and agricultural waste. But again, transport is the main source of pollution. So if I can draw your attention to the 2 blue boxes in the middle of the slide. So overall, and our finding is very similar to what was mentioned earlier, is that though there are various kinds of pollutants being emitted, it's mainly the PM 2.5 and PM 10, which is the key pollutant of concern. And amongst pollution sources is the transport sector, which is a major source of pollution in all the cities, followed by industries. And the industry depends on each city. So for example, for Faridpur and the 2 cities in Pakistan, it's the brick kilns. In Urdanet, it's the mining, the copper mining. and in Ho Chi Minh and Vinh, it's the construction sector and the cooking, the household cooking. In terms of the health and economic impacts, so again, these are preliminary findings, and for now we have the findings of these 4 countries. So in Bangladesh, 21%, we found that 21% of deaths are caused by ambient and indoor PM pollution. And rural women are exposed to indoor pollution for 3 to 7 hours a day, with PM 2.5 levels 70 times higher inside than outside levels. Mm-hmm. And there is a loss in productivity of unhealthy garment workers, which is estimated to cost about $90 million a year. In the Philippines, according to the State of Global Air Report, which is produced by the Health Effects Institute, 64,400 premature deaths in the Philippines were attributable to air pollution in 2017. A 2016 World Bank study found that the total welfare losses due to air pollution in 2013 was 10.4 billion, or 4.17% of the GDP. In Mongolia, we still have very early findings in Mongolia. We found that 5% of children under the age of 5 had acute respiratory infection, or ARI, and 76% of children found with ARI were found in Ulaanbaatar. So as we know, Ulaanbaatar is the capital of Mongolia, and it is one of the most polluted cities in the whole world. In Pakistan, 97% of the population are exposed to PM 2.5 levels that exceed the WHO standards, and average life expectancy has been cut by at least 2.2 years because of air pollution. And the total health cost is about $450 million a year, or 1% of the GDP. So as we can see, there are huge health and economic impacts because of air pollution. But the good news is we are finding some solutions. And again, this is at a very early stage since we are still implementing the TA. We have identified about 141 solutions within the different sectors. As you see, there are 6 different sectors: domestic, transport, waste management, agriculture, industries, and energy. And these measures will be delivered through different kinds of instruments, such as regulations, market-based instruments. Of course, awareness campaigns is a very important part of this. So for example, the regulatory measures could be something like banning the burning of crops. Market-based instruments could be providing waivers for taxes and incentivizing the purchase of electric vehicles. Also, voluntary and negotiated agreements can be made between the government and specific industries to introduce certain energy efficiencies features in the industrial processes. And it could also be technical measures, such as replacing of old and inefficient cooking and heating stoves inside homes with modern and more efficient or electric cooking stoves. Measures also include improved public transport planning, optimization of urban planning and layout, and encouragement of mass transit, such as MRT and BRT. And research and development is a very important part of the solution, particularly with regard to improving technology and finding more and efficient ways of running an industry or the industrial processes to emit less pollution. And of course, this will have to be coordinated very closely amongst all the different stakeholders at the national level, at the regional level, where it could be in a couple of states or a couple of provinces, or it could be cross-boundary regional level kind of coordination. And then, of course, ultimately at the city level. So what we are going to do going forward, we are going to go through these 141 measures and do a matchmaking exercise with the specific sort of pollution problem in each city, and then work closely with the city stakeholders in then putting in these measures into the city level clean air action plans. So this is my last slide, and I would like to end here by giving a sneak peek of this air quality information leaflet that ADB will be publishing in a few days. And this is basically an information tool to inform our government stakeholders and to equip them with the information on what comprises air pollution, what are the main sources, and what are the possible solutions, as well as what are the best practices that have been implemented in other countries in Asia as well as in the developed world. So it's basically to serve as a tool to equip our government decision makers. So I will stop here and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Karma. And from your presentations, there's still a lot of work to be done. Thank you so much for your insights and raising all these air pollution issues in various cities in the region. And now, Karma, Marcos, we have a lot of questions from our delegates. And I will ask a few of them, but if you could please keep your answers short and straight to the point, because after this, we have a panel of leaders from various cities to share with us their best practices from across the region. Dr. Ahmad, here's a question for you. You mentioned that China has done a good job of coordinating across airsheds. This delegate is saying, can you please elaborate on how China achieved this coordination?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, China understood when it organized the Olympic Games in 2008 that measures in Beijing will not be sufficient, are not sufficient to control air quality in Beijing. And starting it from this time, it has involved the surrounding provinces this is Beijing, Hebei, and Tianjin, the North China region, and have established a coordination mechanism to agree and coordinate the measures in the three provinces together with the emphasis to improve air quality in Beijing. And a few years ago, this mechanism has been even elevated to the ministerial level, has got more power to decide what measures, because it was understood that the power of individual cities is not enough, and there need to be some coordination mechanisms, consultation mechanisms, coordination mechanisms across different administrations. And this area spans about 1,000 kilometers in diameter, and it is working in Asian conditions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aman, for your response. Karma, let me get over to you. Given that air pollution is transboundary, you mentioned so many cities having air quality problems. Is there merit, Karma, to have an internationally binding agreement for all countries to clean their air?
Absolutely. There is a huge merit in doing that. But it's a great idea, but the challenge is in terms of practically making it happen. It's already challenging enough to coordinate within the stakeholders within one country. So when you go cross-country, it becomes more challenging. But of course, that would be the ultimate solution. But I would start small. First, start at a regional basis, for example, South Asia or Southeast Asia, and then slowly try to build up the momentum, because it is very challenging to get everybody on the same page.
And maybe this could be, for example, ASEAN, right? ASEAN. Could it start with ASEAN members?
Yes, absolutely. And I think there is a partnership actually around air pollution management in the ASEAN region. There is something similar also in the South Asia region, but I think we need to be a bit more active and pick up the pace in the South Asia region.
Active, pick up the pace, and you need the political will to be able to institute these changes and for them to sign a binding agreement for clean air. Mr. Aman, let me get back to you. Here's a question from one of our delegates. How do you think we could enforce indoor air quality surveillance in the household level, as we agree that household plays an important role in air quality?
Well, I think it is extremely important to enable the access to clean energy for the households. I think this is the only way forward. We know that this is not so easy. There are many social difficulties, there are other economic issues, but we have to move towards providing complete access to clean energy to all the households in the region. Technically, this is possible. It is more an a question how to organize this socially and economically in a good way.
Another question for you, Mr. Aman, for soil dust, which seems to be quite high for Indian cities. Is this from soil within the city or outside the city? Does deforestation and climate have an impact?
The soil dust I've shown there is basically originating from the deserted areas, from outside of the cities, and is very fine soil dust. This is the very small particles. It's only a small fraction of the total soil dust, but this is transported over long distances. And certainly this desertification, climate change has an important role. Soil dust in the city is usually consisting of larger particles, and they're not penetrating the lungs so much.
All right, Karma, final question from one of our delegates from Thailand. Transport is a key factor for air pollution in large cities, but in regions like northern Thailand, Chiang Mai, the main cause is biomass burning. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree. Biomass burning is a major source of pollution, and as we all know, a big cause for the regional haze, which happens at particular seasons of the year. So yes, transport is prevalent in many countries and cities, but that's not the only problem. And this waste burning is also a very big problem.
I'll insert one more question before we move on to our panelists. How does municipal waste add to air pollution? Is this legal or illegal burning? What solutions are there? And if you would like to answer.
If I don't know, if I want to start, if I should start here, certainly the municipal waste, the big source is the burning of waste. It doesn't matter whether it's illegal, whether it's legal, but as soon as waste is burned, it contributes significantly to the pollution. And it is really important to organize proper waste management. It's not enough to only collect the waste and burn it afterwards in an open burning. It must be either deposited very well or burned under controlled situations.
Karma?
Yes, so I agree with what Dr. Marcus had just said. There is, in many places, people just don't have any other solution, especially when the waste management facilities are not good and people don't know where to throw their waste. They just end up burning it in their backyard, or all the waste gets dumped into the landfill and then it gets burned. So I think there is this concept of waste to energy, and they are trying to work on this in the Maldives, where instead of burning the waste, it's sort of control management and segregating the waste, so the biodegradables are decomposed, and then trying to do everything in a very controlled environment so that all the fumes and the emissions are not let out into the environment, and they're trying to be in fact converted into energy which can be reused for cooking or something like that. So that is also a solution to the waste management.
Thank you so much, Karma and Marcus, for your insights on how to better air quality in cities in the Asia-Pacific region. Thank you very much for your expert advice. And now that we have an overview of the situation in the region, let's bring in our esteemed panelists to share innovative solutions for clean air and climate action, and how they are transforming the COVID-19 crisis into an opportunity for cleaner air and a stable climate. Our first guest is the Acting Deputy Governor for Spatial Planning and the Environment of DKI Jakarta. Prior to this role, she served as Head of Bureau for Spatial Planning and Environment of DKI Jakarta. Let us all please welcome Ibu Vera Revina Sari. Thank you so much for joining us. And up next is the Environmental Policy Advisor for the Kawasaki Environmental Research Institute. He's an expert on international environmental governance and sustainable development. Thank you so much for joining us, Tetsuro Yoshida. And our next panelist is the Director of Fine Dust Countermeasure Division of Gyeonggi Province of the Republic of Korea. Let us all please welcome Mr. Dae Gyun Park. Thank you so much.
반갑습니다. 경기도 미세먼지 대책과장.
It's nice to meet you. I'm Park Dae-gun.
We also have the head of the City Transport Development and Management Office from Pasig City in the Philippines. Let us all please welcome Robert Anthony C. Robert, great to have you with us in this session.
Good morning, Rico. Thanks to join you guys.
And finally, we have the member secretary from the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board in India. Let us all please welcome Mr. Chinavasulu. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is a very interesting panel that we have formed for today. Let me first bring in Ibu Vera Revina Sari from Jakarta. Ibu Vera, share with us, how did Jakarta address its air pollution problem over, let's say, the last 5 years?
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Hizan, and greetings to all the esteemed panelists and participants of this session. We in Jakarta are honored for the opportunity to share our achievements and the challenges that we are currently facing. In addressing air pollution, Jakarta recognizes the importance of commitment. Due to this, we established a legal framework as the first concrete step. Jakarta has been monitoring air quality since 2005. This action is backed by the regional regulation on air pollution control. For the past 3 years, other actions have also been taken at an accelerated pace. This is due to the severe air pollution in 2019, which was the result of the long dry season in correlation with La Nina phenomenon during that year. These actions include first, improving air quality monitoring system, which are currently monitored by 3 mobile stations and 5 fixed stations, which include PM 2.5 daily monitoring. Second, establishing a set of quick win actions to control air quality in Jakarta through gubernatorial instruction on air quality control. These actions cover air quality control from stationary and non-stationary sources and are backed in our regional strategic activities on air pollution control. Third, implementing mandatory vehicle exhaust emission tests. Vehicles which do not pass the test are mandated to pay the highest parking tariffs. And fourth, establishing low emission zone in Kota Tua, the old city, which is a heritage site and holds immense historical value for Jakarta. And fifth, auditing industrial emissions. Sixth, developing the air quality control grand design in collaboration with Vital Strategies and Bandung Institute of Technology. This grand design serves as a long-term strategy and action guideline to control the air quality in Jakarta and its surrounding cities, namely Bogor, Depok, Tangerang, and Bekasi. Together, they constitute the Greater Jakarta area, known locally as Jabodetabek. Thank you.
Ibu Vera, there are many initiatives that the capital city has initiated to try to resolve this air pollution issue over the past several years. But of course, as we all know, the past year and a half, we have been hit by this pandemic, COVID-19. And of course, this has reduced financial and human resources to fight air pollution. Have there been innovative solutions that Jakarta has implemented for clean air and climate action despite this ongoing health crisis?
Okay. During the pandemic, Jakarta has been receiving some silver linings in our effort to maintain clean air. As an example, the large-scale social restriction, which is the primary policy in reducing the number of COVID-19 infections, has resulted in improvements to the air quality in Jakarta. The citizens reported to experience more days with clear air and blue skies, which were previously perceived as somewhat rare. This is further backed by the data from the Jakarta Capital City Government Department for Environmental Affairs, which indicates a decrease in days with unhealthy air quality from 51% in 2018 to 24% in 2020. On the other hand, the pandemic has made the implementation of several ongoing actions delayed due to the lack of resources. In the middle of this pressure, Jakarta enhances its actions by collaborating with various stakeholders. These are facilitated by establishing our large-scale social collaboration platform. It can be accessed at corona.jakarta.go.id/en/platform-KSBB. Due to this, Jakarta can still implement our solutions even though we are working with limited resources. For climate and air quality control, Jakarta established two sets of quick wins actions through gubernatorial instruction on air quality control and on climate disaster impact control. These actions are incorporated into the annual budgeting and the working plan of the government. Other potential solution which is currently being explored is reducing the impact of transportation to the air quality of Jakarta. One of the ways to accomplish is by enacting permanent bicycle lanes with facilities for riders. The governor of Jakarta, Mr. Anies Baswedan, has planned a target for Jakarta's bicycle lanes to reach 170 kilometers by the end of 2021. This is a significant improvement compared to the recorded number in June 2021, which was only 63 kilometers. Another way is by building support to transition to e-mobility. Jakarta is currently exploring this possibility with technical assistance from the Climate Technology Center and Network, or CTCN. This initiative aims to first develop an investment plan and procurement documents for e-bus induction in 2020. Second, assess the supportive policy requirements and actions required by the government of Jakarta and the government of Indonesia to facilitate the deployment of e-buses and related infrastructure. Third, conduct feasibility assessment of renewable energy use in Transjakarta bus rapid transit operations, including solar roofing for bus and or the mass rapid transit stations. Currently, data from the CTCN shows that the green gas emission in Jakarta will go up to 117 million tons of CO2, in which the contribution from transportation will be about 25% with a business as usual scenario. Fully renewable energy powered electric buses can significantly reduce CO2 equivalent grams per miles over diesel-based buses and gas-based buses. The grid power electric buses will be estimated based on the grid energy mix during the design and implementation stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Vera, for sharing with us the Jakarta experience. And I'm sure many of our delegates can learn from the implementation of plans of the capital city on how it balanced air quality with the ongoing COVID-19 response. And now let's hear the perspective from Tetsuro Yoshida. Hello, Yoshida-san. Can you share with us the Kawasaki experience with air pollution in its early industrial history and describe how COVID affected air quality in the city?
Thank you very much, Rico. Yes, I'm not sure many people know Kawasaki, where Kawasaki is, but so let me explain. Kawasaki is next to just Tokyo, in between Tokyo and Yokohama, and it's known to be very industrial city. And after the World War II, in the 60s and 70s, it was known to be the polluted city of Japan, among others. And so that many people suffered from chronic bronchitis and bronchial asthma and so on. But thanks to the efforts of businesses and citizens, of course, and today, the atmospheric concentrations of pollutants such as NOx and SO2 have all met the environmental standards set by the government, except the photochemical oxidants, which is still an issue. But due to corona pandemics, a state of emergency was issued last year in April, and people started teleworking and also stayed home. And also the quality of air quality improved slightly, but it wasn't as drastic as like seen in Los Angeles or New Delhi. And so it was difficult for us to conclude that, okay, this was due to corona self-restraint that the air quality improved. But because year by year, the air quality has been improving over decades in our city. And I think part of the reason is that, okay, factories continued operating, and also the logistics didn't stop fully. And also our public transportation system is very good. So a lot of people use public transport and not drive. So that is part of the reason that we are not sure the corona pandemics and the air quality improvement. But I think there was.
Yoshida-san, did Kawasaki institute any reforms that could potentially improve air quality in Kawasaki, and also climate change following the initial stages of COVID?
Yes. Okay. The measures to fight climate change have been there of course, and so we cannot say that as such that okay, we introduced this measure for climate change as a result of the coronavirus. But of course, the teleworking has been introduced, and it's a small step, but for public sector in Japan, it was very challenging for staff to work at home, but the system has been introduced. And also, we started this Carbon Zero Challenge 2050 and committed ourselves to carbon neutrality by 2050. And also for cities like Kawasaki, which are industrial, it's very difficult. And 70% of the carbon emissions are from industrial sector. So, and we cannot change the huge industrial areas overnight to decarbonize it. So, yeah, I'm not sure if I answered your question properly, but yeah. And also we have been, piloting projects to use hydrogen energy, because electric cars cannot really transport heavy stuff as yet, and also we cannot fly a plane using electricity. So we need more powerful new generation energy source, and we think that hydrogen is one. And so we have this project to use waste plastics to create hydrogen energy. And we actually use hydrogen energy to power a hotel and also the cars, and so which has been put into use.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yoshida, for sharing with us the Kawasaki experience and the initiatives being undertaken to reduce air pollution and improve air quality in your city. Let's now shift gears a bit and ask our friend from Gyeonggi Province, Mr. Park, who is joining us right now. Mr. Park, Gyeonggi-do's policy is to improve fine dust targets. And where are you now in terms of this goal of attaining your targets? Mr. Park?
Okay. So it is a great pleasure to introduce the measure of the Gyeonggi province. So first, I'd like to introduce Gyeonggi province. Gyeonggi province is located in the east side of China, so we can say that it is under the influence of China. And also, Gyeonggi province is the region that surrounding the Seoul, and which has the highest number of the car registered in Korea. And also Gyeonggi province has its also regional characteristics, but I think it is a national characteristics not only for Gyeonggi province, which is we have a high concentration of the PM2.5 in winter and spring, while we have a very moderate and good concentration in summer. And also Gyeonggi-do is the region where urban area and the rural areas coexist. So the concentration of the ultra-fine dust is ranked second in the country, so it is not favorable. And for the PM10, we are the worst region in Korea. So here you can see the comparison of the concentration of the PM2.5 and PM10. We can see that the concentration level is improving. So this is the table of the total emissions of the PM2.5. So from now on, I'd like to introduce the Gyeonggi-do seasonal fine dust management system. So we have our own annual management system. So it is a year-round permanent policy. And second, we also have seasonal management system for December to March, which has the highest concentration level of the PM2.5. And also, we also have emergency reduction measures in case of a disaster. So if the concentration level is too high, like a disaster, there's emergency reduction measures. And next, so this can be the best practices of the PM2.5 management system, which is the seasonal management system. So in order to respond to the highest concentration of the PM2.5, the seasonal management system has been launched in 2019. So this year, we are planning to implement the third seasonal management system. So the main task will cover the transportation field, industrial field, project surrounding field, and health protection field, as well as work cooperation. So from now on, I'd like to give a detailed information about the seasonal management by policy by sectors. So first, for the transportation field, we have a control and the limit for the old car vehicle. As of 2005, we started the strict restriction on the operation of old cars. Along with the restriction, we support the early raise of the old cars. And also, we also encourage the operation of the electric vehicles and the hydrogen cars. And also, we're supporting and continuously expanding the chargers in order to support that initiatives. And for the industrial field, so there are a number of small atmosphere prevention establishments in Gyeonggi province. So for the improvement of their quality in the small facilities, we invested the national budget and support their facilities. And for the large scale industrial fields, we are doing a measurement for the total amount of emissions. Also, we are utilizing scientific devices for the strength and monitoring like drone. And third, for the private sector, Gyeonggi province is where the rural and the urban areas coexist, so there are a lot of agricultural waste. So we can dismantle all the agricultural debris shredder on site, and we can utilize them as a fertilizer on site. And in order to prevent illegal incineration, we are operating the monitoring teams. And also, in order to prevent the contamination of the pollution from the boilers, we support for the installation of low NOx boilers in the home. And also, in order to next sector is for the health protection. In order to reinforce the alarm systems, we install the signal systems in the area, and also we're strengthening management of facilities for the vulnerable groups, including the seniors and the children. And also, we are also operating the intensified regions, so we're designating 8 intensive management zones and promotion of specialized projects. And lastly, I'd like to talk about the business collaboration. So Gyeonggi-do has already signed the cooperations for the atmosphere improvements between regions. And also, we're promoting the work cooperation to improve Pyeongtaek Port. And also, by holding the Clean Air International Forum, we are connecting a lot of activities with the UNEP and the other international organizations. And by signing the UNEP General Assembly and Environment, we are doing a lot of co-activities. And for the cooperation to reduce in the overseas, we are promoting our project with China's Kubuchi Desert Find the Reduction Tree Planting Projects. So based on the various efforts of the Gyeonggi province, we could reduce the PM 2.5 concentration from 26 to 21. So Gyeonggi-do will doing its best to reduce the PM 2.5 concentration and improve the air quality. So, and we will continuously do our best for the international cooperation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Parr from Gyeonggi Province, for sharing with us your initiatives and your best practices to improve the air quality in your province. Thank you so much, Mr. Park. Let's now cross over now to Robert, who is in Pasig City in the Philippines. And Robert, your work involves handling all matters related to transport planning, road safety, and e-mobility in the city, which has a population of about 800,000 people. Can you share with us how Pasig City promoted biking, especially as a transport solution during this pandemic?
Right. So, yeah, thanks, Rico and everyone for having me here. I think maybe one of the interesting things we've seen with biking in recent months, especially in the last year of the pandemic in the Philippines, is that you have this movement, which was really a grassroots bottom-up movement going up for a long time, that saw a lot of new and even renewed interest from people who started biking during the pandemic. I think like other countries, the Philippines had a lot of transportation challenges due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I think chief among them really was number one, the need to have reduced loading on public transportation, resulting in the issuance of guidelines by our Philippine Department of Transportation, reducing the effective loading capacity of many public transportation vehicles. So that's one. Number one, vehicles on public transport couldn't take that many passengers. And I think at the same time, because of the way the public transportation system in the Philippines is organized, many public transport operators, I think up to now, have not been able to return to prior levels of service provision just because of the lack of financial viability. So it's really a double whammy effect hitting our public transportation sector that's led many people to look to cycling as a means of transportation, even people who would never have thought of it before. So I think ever since though in the Philippines, for a while we had reduced road traffic due to the fewer cars on the road. But I think even as traffic has returned, as motor vehicle traffic levels have returned to prior levels, we've seen people maintain interest in cycling. So I think riding on that, we've seen this as an opportunity in Pasig to implement a lot more pro-cycling projects, such as bike lanes and bike parking. I think for us, we want to emphasize both aspects of it, not just basically the bicycle lanes that make roads safer, but also bike parking that makes it more viable to travel to more types of businesses and make more types of trips using bicycles.
I've seen a lot of these lanes around Metro Manila, which is the economic hub in the Philippines, Robert. And I just want to find out, are people really using it? I see sparse number of bikers moving around. I mean, should this not just be promoted individually, but also in coordination with other groups to really take this initiative forward?
Yeah, I think Rico, one thing that we've actually seen with bike lanes, and actually it surprises a lot of people, because when we do counts on our bike lanes in Pasig, we actually note that on some of them there are more cyclists using it now than people using private cars. So actually, in some parts of Pasig, you see bikes outnumbering private cars. But I think for people who maybe take cursory looks at on the street without intentionally counting them, it's easy to mistake the number of bikers to be fewer than they actually are, just because they pass by you so fast. Cars are easy to count because they get stuck in front of you, but bikes actually move faster. I think the way to the key now for Philippine cities trying to promote cycling and get more people into cycling moving forward. I think there are a lot of I think analogs here with the air quality or the air quality debate and policy space, that cities can do it, but they can't do it alone. Cities have to take the lead.
In Pasig City, Robert, with more, as you say, more citizens using bikes rather than their cars, are we seeing now air quality levels improving in Pasig City?
Unfortunately, Rico, I think it's not. I think we haven't seen a major drastic shift yet, just because even as bikes grow in number, there still is a. We've still seen a big rebound in motor vehicle traffic levels from before. I think when we try to measure air quality on major streets, even if you have more bikers, I think we still haven't seen an appreciable drop in air pollution compared to pre-pandemic conditions. I think this really just underscores the importance of more active measures to reduce air quality, in addition to promoting more sustainable transportation.
And of course, because Metro Manila is still under what you call modified enhanced community quarantine, people are not allowed to eat outside, and more people are still staying at home. Has this basically also in one way or another improved the air quality in the metropolis?
Yeah, I think, Rico, this was true for a portion of the pandemic when lockdown, when more activities were restricted and you really had much less travel demand. But I think as the lockdown classifications have changed in the Philippines, as you've seen more return to work and other activities, I think one thing we have seen is that even though overall people mobility is reduced compared to before, we've seen a rebound in motor vehicle traffic that's actually put us at close to pre-pandemic conditions. So even though, so it's actually like the worst of both worlds. Even though mobility of people is still reduced, we've seen that motor vehicle traffic can independently rebound in spite of that. And I think this is a challenge for not just for us, but for all cities around the world.
Thank you so much, Robert, for sharing the experiences in Pasig City in terms of transport planning, road safety, and e-mobility. It is great news that more people now are using their bikes to move around the city. Let us now shift our attention to Karnataka, and we're speaking now with Mr. Srinivasulu. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. First of all, India has launched the National Clean Air Program 2 years ago. That was in 2019. And this set out a target to achieve 20 to 30% reduction in particulate matter levels by 2024. But all of this is based on 2017 levels. Share with us, how is Karnataka faring relative to this target of 2017?
Yeah, good morning, Rico, and everybody. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to share some of the experiences, India in general and Karnataka in particular, to Southeast Asia. In fact, now India, as you rightly pointed out, has launched a massive program, National Clean Air Program, where even yesterday we had clean air for blue skies, Swachha Pavan Neel Gagan. So with none other than Honorable Prime Minister flagging this issue at the national level that we should improve our air quality and then reduce our PM 2.5 and PM10 to extent of 20 to 30% by 2024. And as many of the other speakers are rightly pointing out, it is a holistic program. So accordingly, in India, I think we have a network of state pollution control boards and which are flagged by Central Pollution Control Board. We periodically monitor air quality, as you rightly said, by continuous ambient air quality monitoring stations. So this data is generating us. And now, based on this data in India, we have identified 124 cities first, which are the hotspots, where ambient air quality is above the prescribed norms. And we call them as non-attainment cities. And now we are committed to bring down these non-attainment cities into attainment mode by 2024. In that respect, the Government of India has earmarked special funds for this under the 15th Finance Commission, wherein now each city has to have a comprehensive action plan. Rightly, it's not just Pollution Control Board, but it is by urban local bodies, transport departments, police department, and electricity department, and then management of municipal solid waste. So each of these organizations are involved, and Pollution Control Board, our organization, is a nodal body to bring in everybody. Now for Bangalore, we have around 44-point action plan. And for other 3 cities, we have around 27-point action plan. Simply to put it, these are the broad framework that we have given to, like urban local body, BBMP should do this. Transport department should do this. And then police department, decongest should do this. So these are the broad frameworks that we have identified. And now based on these broad frameworks, even we are going to a level of micro planning, that what that department action plan should include, so that, see, as one speaker rightly pointed out, it is not one organization, one department doing something will give the results. It has to be the comprehensive coordinated effort of various people. In fact, today it is a one thing where it's not just Bangalore that if that does something, it will be important, but then the radius of the catchment area of air pollution is somewhere around 1,000 kilometers. I think we have to take it from there. Like at present, at least, each statewide and each citywide action plans we have, and I'm very happy to share here. I think now, after Honorable Prime Minister's push to the system, every department, every organization, in their scheme of things, they are trying to put these broad framework guidelines in their action plan so that they do that. for example, it could be decongestion. Yeah.
So do you think, Mr. Srinivasulu, that with these comprehensive plans of various cities and provinces, can India really attain this goal in 3 years' time? Is it on track?
No, I'm really hopeful because see, for anything, if there is a concerted effort, once we identify the problem, and then we know, yes, now we should do this, and then definitely things will be possible. And now from 2017 and then 2019, now there is a focused approach. Even today, I see that, okay, there is a focused approach by everybody that, like in Bangalore, suppose I say, instead of doing all other things, now people are telling, okay, now municipal solid waste, legacy waste burning should be addressed. Yeah. Then we identify the, based on our source apportionment studies, we tell them these are the local spots which are contributing more to PM 2.5. Then there specifically BBMP will come in and put their road repair kind of a thing. Then road dust clean. So,
but with this COVID-19 pandemic and resources being depleted in terms of financial and human resources, can it still be attained, or should the target be moved further down the line, 2025 or 2026?
No, there are some other things, like the speaker from Japan was mentioning that during COVID pandemic, the improvement and sudden improvement in air quality in some cities like Delhi was very perceptible. So similar the cases in Bangalore also. In fact, people after this, we have a continuous data that is coming up. What was the air quality before pandemic and what is the air quality during pandemic? So now at least people come to know that by improving air quality, what kind of benefits they are getting. In fact, I can share with speakers here, like, I keep telling to people that, see, every day we eat around 1 to 1.5 kg food. We drink 3 to 4 liters of water, but you know how much air we are breathing? It is 11,000 kg air every day we breathe, and we have no control over, while selecting, at least we can select, this is good food, this is good water, but the air, not many people have that control of which air to breathe. So this COVID pandemic has opened somewhere like clean air, okay, clean cities is definitely going to help them in their living standards. So that awareness is coming up, and it is the right time that India has started this program, National Clean Air Program. Now we know, example, if it is improved, what benefits we get. And now we have a program towards improving the air quality in a continuous level. And I see that seriousness among everybody. Okay, now it is no more the mandate of only pollution control boards to implement this program. Now pollution control board is only a regulatory body to identify where is the problem and who should do, and the responsibility is of all the lying other departments who is taking up. And I see that change in attitude, which is very difficult. You can put in money, you can bring in technology, but then changing attitude of the society in general to move towards something is very difficult. And that I see that change in attitude among all the various line departments, and I'm very positive and hopeful that this
Mr. Srinivasulu, there are still 3 years to go, right? I mean, for this target to be achieved, 2024. Can you suggest other opportunities to further strengthen the efforts by the national government and by Karnataka and by the various and by other provinces and cities to address air pollution through green and sustainable recovery?
Yeah. See, there are two things. Like one, right now, till there is a city-wide approach, as I was mentioning, we are concentrating on first those 124 cities to improve air quality. But then, as the outcome or as the understanding from the workshop here, it is not just cities; it is the region. That should be the catchment should be treated. To if we want to have a meaningful results, I think that is where we can take up the learning from the zone of operation should be enhanced. Apart from those non-attainment cities, the other areas, like rightly, if Delhi is facing problem, the biomass burning in Haryana is majorly contributing to that one kind of a thing during winters. So that learnings are happening. Okay, and even municipal solid waste. now all other departments who are involved in these air quality issues, they're coming up, and now budget is there, program is there, then changes, attitudinal changes we are seeing, and it's a right, it's a right atmosphere, right circumstances, right situation. That is, I see that positive thing, and then very hopeful that it will.
All right.
It will
Thank
happen.
you. Thank you very much for your insights, Mr. Srinivasulu. Robert, let me get back to you about the Philippines and Pasig City. You know, I mean, just listening to all of our speakers, Mr. Srinivasulu just said that the budget is there, the resources are there despite the pandemic, and the solutions are there for better air quality. But in your view, why do you think our local governments or even the national government hesitant to use all of these solutions which are available to them?
Yeah. Actually, Rico, to be quite honest, I think like you said, the problem is really complex, and I think one of the big challenges there is that even if the solutions are on their face quite simple, in the Philippine context, it really requires unwinding like a web spun over decades of policies that have basically built on top of each other that have basically opposed a better air quality.
Is it also the bureaucracy? Is the bureaucracy also a problem for many countries apart from the Philippines to be able to implement these solutions to reduce air quality, to improve air quality in their respective jurisdictions?
Well, I would say in the Philippines right now, I think the bureaucracy right now is quite improving a bit, because at least in Pasig City, I'm very proud that myself and the people who work on cycling are people who are actual bike commuters that use their bicycles to get around every day. And I think for other cities in Metro Manila, there are quite a number of other cities. I think in Quezon City and San Juan, also the people in charge, in Taguig as well, the people in charge are also bike commuters themselves. So I think in that sense, in terms of having implementers that know really what the problem is, we're getting a little better. But I think more than just improving the quality of the decision makers, I think really there has to be more thought put into unwinding that web of policies and institutions that make doing the right thing so difficult.
I mean, your mayor, Vico Soto, is young. He has a lot of ideas. He's a visionary. He's an implementer. Are there other opportunities and efforts, initiatives, incentives to address air pollution in the city through green and sustainable recovery?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things we're working on in Pasig City is that really we like improving air quality isn't something that really can be done only by for instance, by the bike lane office or the environment office. It's something where you really have to use all the policy tools you can in order to get to a better and greener recovery. So for offices like our planning and engineering offices, that means including more green space, more pocket parks, even for people to find pockets of better air quality. It means for the building official, for instance, approving, trying to work with developers and private sector building owners to make more greener and more and better building designs for better air quality. Improving the level of bicycle parking that's provided by private buildings is one other example.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your insights, Robert, from Pasig City in the Philippines. And we would like to thank our esteemed panelists from Indonesia, from Gyeonggi Province, from Japan, from India, and the Philippines for sharing with us your innovative solutions for clean air and climate action. And I realize from the discussion just now, it is clear that only through a coordinated approach and action at the global, regional, national, and local levels can we truly see success to beat air pollution. It has to be a collaboration. All stakeholders have to get involved, whether you like it or not. Cities are an integral part of the solution in fighting air pollution and this climate crisis. So on behalf of our partners, Vital Strategies, IGES, and Clean Air Asia, thank you so much for joining us for this session on clean air, healthy cities, investing in green and sustainable recovery. And do keep an eye on our website, cleanairweek.org, where we will be posting the content so you can watch it on demand anytime, any day, 24/7. You can watch this session. All right, we will take a quick break and we will be back after 1 hour, just 1 hour. So don't leave your screens, just leave it on and take a break, your lunch break or a snack break, coffee break, tea break. And for our next session, we have multiple benefits of action, climate, and clean air. I've been your moderator, Rico Hizon of CNN Philippines. Thank you so much for joining us. And to all our delegates, hundreds of you from across the region, thank you so much for joining us. And always remember, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you again soon. Bye for now. See you in the next session.